Hi, welcome everyone. This is Adobe We. It's our Women Executive Leadership Series. I'm super excited to bring you this new series where we get to talk to Adobe women senior leaders in the company and talk about their professional experiences, their challenges, the opportunities they've had in their career. And I'm super thrilled to have with us today Ashley Still and Gladys. Let's get started on one particular topic in terms of navigating your career. They call it a career path or a career ladder, which sort of would signify a straight line. I know in my experience, my career path has been less than straight. It's taken a couple left and right turns here and there. So I'd like to understand from you, how has the progression, we'll start with you, Ashley, been in your career?
I agree. It's not a ladder. It's not a straight line. Even as you understand what you want to do, your career evolves. So I don't think it's realistic to have your career all planned out at the beginning, or even more than 3 to 5 years, thinking directionally about the next 3 years. So the things that I've always held true is try to do what interests me, right? What have I been interested in? My career actually started in investment banking. I've always been interested in business, and I majored in economics in undergrad. And one of the common things to do with that degree was to go into finance. I quickly realized when I was in investment banking that I was less interested in the finance aspect of what I was doing and much more interested in what our clients were trying to build. And that to me was a signal that at that moment in time, I was in the wrong job, right?
Yep, a lot of what Ashley said really resonated with me too, right? Is you can't really map out your career, right? Because you don't know what you don't know. My background is in computer science, and unlike some other subjects, right, there's really no formula when it comes to programming, right? You use your creativity, right? There's no one way to build a product, right? There are thousands of ways to build a product. And so that's what I liked when I started out, right? So I always thought I'm gonna stay doing this, I like being a developer, I like being an engineer. But, a couple years, into Adobe, I started seeing all this products getting built, all this decision getting made, and I don't always agree with the decisions that get made. So then I get impatient. I'm like, well, maybe I can make some of those decisions. So I talked to my manager at the time and, told her that, if the opportunity arises, I would like to try, out being a manager. Right? So I did make that switch, right? But that was never in the card, right? When I graduated from college, right? And I never thought I would want to go into that.
So you raised your hand.
I raised my hand
for what you wanted to do, which I think is important.
Yes.
Ask for it.
Yes.
Ask for what you want.
That's right. I didn't wait for my manager to come to me and say, hey, would you like to be a manager of the team?
What I love about both of those stories is you identified, your skills and what you wanted to do. And I think, my story is just a little bit different in terms of a lens, like what happens when you get impacted by something you didn't expect.
Right.
A few years ago, I went through a change at Adobe where I was in sales and we did a bit of a reorganization, and I found myself in a different job that my boss had asked me to do. And in the beginning, I was very closed-minded. I'm in sales. I don't want to do a corporate job and a program job. And, I didn't have a good attitude about it in the beginning. And I started to do it and I really enjoyed it. And that opportunity gave me global experience, which I had never had before. And so I've been working in a global role at Adobe for 3 or 4 years now, and I absolutely love it. And so sometimes something can happen in your career that you don't expect. And my advice to people would be, whatever your first gut reaction is when you have it, give it a little bit of time and explore.
Mm-hmm. Even if you try something and you don't stay in that role, that role turns out not to be the right career path for you, such as investment banking for me, I developed skills in that role, analytical skills, financial skills, right, that I use today. So it's certainly, you gain something. There's always something to be gained. And in addition to Gladys's great advice, which is you're going to send a signal either way. If you raise your hand and ask for it, you're actually in control of the signal. If you don't ask for what you want, you're also sending a signal, which is you're happy. You don't want more. So be careful in thinking that you are not sending a signal by not asking for what you want. You are. And the other advice is think about how you stay learning oriented. I am as focused on learning 15, 16 years into my career at Adobe as I was when I started. And I think that is critical to approach things as, what am I going to learn from this versus this role is now my career path.
Actually,
Exactly.
I feel like there's so much more to learn now. For starters, I'm like, oh, well, I'll get comfortable 10 years from now because I probably have learned a lot, right? But I guess maybe the business is changing so quickly now.
I want to switch gears. I'm wanting to understand how you navigate having a career and having your family. You're in the middle of raising children. Gladys and I get to be empty nesters now, so we can share our history of how we navigated that. But I'm curious about how you're navigating the different seasons in your career.
Well, I don't have too much navigating to do anymore. Been there, done that. But I really admire you actually doing what you do and having two little kids, quote little, right, to take care of, because I still remember those days, right? It wasn't easy, and I'm fortunate to have a husband who's very supportive, right? I'm fortunate enough to be able to pay for good quality childcare, right? A lot of people don't have that option. But even then, right, I felt so guilty, right, when I'm at work because I can't go to my son's volleyball game. Or I'm at my son's volleyball game, I feel so guilty I have to leave work early because I'm missing a meeting at 4 o'clock, okay? So, and it all works out okay. My kids are normal kids, I think, But, if I have to do it all over again, I'll probably do exactly the same thing, but I would feel a lot less guilty about it.
Absolutely.
And there really is no perfect in general. When my husband and I first had our daughter, we're both working. My husband also works in technology. Both of us had intense jobs. And I kept turning to him and saying, this is all working right now. We had great childcare. We could kind of balance it and make sure we were spending enough time with our daughter at the time and enough time with each other. I said, but this is totally going to fall apart in the next 3 months. Like, it's working now, but and the kind of feeling, the sensation that I had for that period of time was that I was like driving at a really high speed along a cliff where like you're driving too fast and there were all these curves and you knew at some point, I was like, this is going to fall apart. Our daughter is going to be not developed correctly emotionally. Teachers were going to call us and tell us that something was horribly wrong. It really took me 5 years. It was not until my daughter turned 5 where I turned to him one day and I said, "Oh, okay, I think we're okay." And he just was laughing. He was like, "What is wrong with you?" And so I think we do all have this feeling, whether it's guilt or this sense of impending doom, which is for some reason what I felt. And you just have to work through it.
Yeah, your kids can really thrive in that environment too. And I know my son told me one day when he went off to college that he was so grateful that I traveled so much and had a job because he knew how to do things and he
Right.
was so independent. Wow. In some ways it broke my heart, and in other ways it was very gratifying to know that, he could take care of himself too,
Right.
when he went away to college. And in my situation, I ended up getting divorced when my son was 6, not at all how I wanted it, didn't have a choice about not working, spent too many years feeling guilty. But now I look back on it, and when women are making decisions about taking the next job and moving on in their career, I'm a fighter for taking the job. I feel like you absolutely can have a great career and take the next challenge and manage your situation at home as well. And it's not always pretty.
Right, absolutely. On the flip side too, there are also so many examples of women who stepped out for a little while,
Yes.
and then came back into it, or paused. Right, careers are not like an evenly paced progression. I have definitely had 5-year periods where my career progression was not as fast, and 5-year progressions where it's been a lot faster.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. In the spirit of learning, how do you find ways to learn? My tips and tricks for folks when they're looking to build new skills is find the people that you work with or who emulate those skills that you want to learn and be mentored by those folks. That's number one. And number two, just do it. And I have found over the years that when I lacked confidence in things, you just really had to start doing and practicing, and then lo and behold, you get better at it at some point.
I often ask for things, new assignment, right? Things that I know nothing about, right? So that's why I've had many different type of assignment, right? Whether it is in, desktop developments, mobile development, release engineering, QE, program manager, right? Once you feel comfortable enough with what you've been doing, it's time to go ask for something new to do.
And if the person knows you and they know what you're capable of, they're much more likely to feel comfortable giving it to you, right? And that's one of the reasons why building relationships is so important, and making sure that you're not just working within your small team, that other people are able to see your work, particularly 1 or 2 levels above where you are. The times that I've changed jobs or had the most kind of dramatic job changes within Adobe have been working for managers that I've already had a relationship with, that I've already worked for in the past. So when I was taking on something new, they already had experience with me and my, what I was capable of.
Your network is so important
Yes.
to advance your career.
Absolutely.
Just get out of your own little world and start meeting people and learning about what else is happening in Adobe. And I think it will be natural from that point on.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to talk about mentors and sponsors and give our audience some practical advice about finding the appropriate mentor or sponsor for your career.
Mentors and sponsors are very different roles that they're playing. They can be the same person, but they're very different roles. A mentor to me is someone who is giving you advice and feedback. So a mentor could be someone that if you are trying to go from engineering into program management, a mentor could give you advice on the skills required for program management, introduce you to people to learn more. A lot of times mentors are actively helping you manage through situations that you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So mentors are really important for problem solving, skill development, all of those great things. Sponsors are actively sponsoring you for roles. So a mentor can become a sponsor, but sponsors are when you're not in the room, right? Advocating for you with others. And so sponsors typically are more senior than you. And typically they're in a position where they can advocate for you for a role that you're interested in or promotion or whatever that might be. Sponsorship, I don't think you should approach as someone that you need to find. Sponsors are developed. And the people that I've sponsored typically have been on my team or people that I've worked with very closely. And it would be a little strange for someone who I'd never met set up a meeting with me and ask me to sponsor them for something.
I would add a little bit to what Ashley has said about mentorship. A lot of time people think that I need someone who's more senior than myself to be my mentor, right? What I've found in the past is it works just as well with your peer. Okay, as long as that person has some unique skills, right, that they can offer, and actually, most importantly, I want to have someone that I can trust, because sometimes it's like because you don't get along with your manager, right, and you definitely don't want to make that public knowledge for a variety of reasons, right? So you want to seek some advice, right? So like I said, it doesn't have to be someone that's more senior than you. Okay, so I just want to put that on the table as well. Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about how someone might know when it's time to make a career move. And when I thought about this question, I was even thinking of my own experience last year. I sat through this QBR and I said, I am absolutely putting up my hand and I want to work on this business. And it worked out and we built a plan and we're executing it this year and it was fun. But sometimes signs aren't so obvious. What are some signs that people should look for when it's
I wish
time
I
to
had
move
a
on?
good answer for you, but I don't. I mean, we don't always know. It's not that black and white, right? For me, maybe I'm oversharing here. Sometimes I don't know if it is bored, but sometimes it's just frustration, feeling, my work doesn't matter anymore. And I'll go home and I'll ask my husband, do we have enough money? Can I retire now? And he would look at me and he'd say, okay, I think it's time for you to find something else to do. Okay. So that's one of my signs is I don't feel...
Need a new challenge.
Yeah.
Looking for a new challenge.
I don't feel like I'm making much of an impact anymore. It's like, I keep busy. There's never a lack of work to do, never a lack of busy work to do, but it's no longer that satisfying. So to me, that's when I start asking myself, it's like, okay, maybe it's time to go do something else.
Yep.
Okay.
I completely agree. It's kind of that sense of impact and learning curve.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, the learning part too.
Where there was some big challenge or opportunity that you were responsible for and kind of driving, and that's getting to a steady state. And in that process, you're also probably starting to, the pace at which you're learning starts to slow down. And so I think it's just that sense of, it feels a little steady state. Right.
Exactly. I can't exactly remember the Diane Sawyer quote, but it was something about there's a space between, anxiety and total fear.
Right.
Somewhere in the middle where that's your creative self, making sure that you're challenged, that you're learning, that you have that little sense of fear and excitement at the same time.
It's actually, I think, a very accurate description.
Yes.
Yeah, I think.
And there's a concept of stretch zone, right? That you should be
Absolutely.
stretched. You shouldn't be so stretched that, you're falling apart. But but to be in that stretch zone.
I know it's hard, especially for people who are just starting, to build up that level of confidence, right? So that they know what they want, and then they have a right to ask for what they want.
You need to articulate what you've accomplished. So one, you need to stay in your role long enough to have clear accomplishments. And two, you need to start to get good at articulating your accomplishments and mapping those accomplishments to why you are the right logical choice for what you want to do next. Because of course it's fantastic when people come tap you on the shoulder, and that does happen sometimes, but that has been the minority of my experience, particularly early in my career. Actually earlier in my career is most important for me to proactively seek opportunities, because you're less known.
That goes along with, when you want a new role, how do you get the support of your current boss? And for me, it was about, have you done what you set out to accomplish to do in the current role that you're in, and being in it long enough to make that impact and accomplishment. But are there other things that you think of when, first of all, I think bosses should be supportive when employees come to them, right? That's absolutely the right reaction.
Yeah,
Right.
a good manager shouldn't just give you work direction, right? A good manager should also be your coach, right? Your career coach, right? And so it's important to have a good, trusting relationship with your manager, right? And I think if you have that, and obviously, you have to be you have to have a good track record, right? You have to prove, right, to your boss, your manager, right, that you are a strong contributor, right? You have values that you can bring to the table, right? And I think the career, the promotion or your career development then becomes a very natural part of our check-in. It shouldn't be a scary journey. Okay, It shouldn't be. But I'm not saying that it's always like that, but it really shouldn't be.
Yeah. And some of the specific things that I've tried to do over my career is try to first. Every manager is different. Everyone has different personalities. So, what do you think the best way to talk to your manager about career is going to be? Right. Some people don't like being surprised. They want to know it's coming. So you might want to start planting seeds. Some people, like, it might be helpful to ask them about their career progression, because if they feel like they're more of a mentor, that they're going to be more open to then talking to you about your career progression. You need to understand how your manager feels about your work and your skills, and you should have a good sense of what they think about those things before you start talking to them about doing more, right? So have a good sense of where you're at with your manager. What does your manager think about you? And this is what the check-in process is for, right? What do you think about what I'm bringing to the table?
Absolutely.
Start there. Don't go to I want a promotion.
Yes.
Right. If your sense is that your manager doesn't necessarily value what you're bringing to the table as much as you think that manager should, then that is a big signal that now you need to go find a different role, because if your manager's not supportive, it's going to be hard. And you don't have to do that right away. Knowing where you are and kind of going from there is really important as a first step.
Yep.
I want to switch gears now and ask you a closing question. What advice would you give your younger self?
I think I would tell my younger self that nobody has all the answers. Nobody at any level of any organization, and everybody is learning and problem solving.
What would I tell myself? Two things probably. Be more courageous, right? And also trust yourself more. Okay. As I said, I was very risk averse, right, when I was younger, right? I was very conservative, right? I didn't want to take too many risks. And part of it is, I'm sure, because I'm an immigrant to this country, right? So after I graduated from college, all I wanted to do was get a job. Okay, and then once I have a job, I just want to make sure that I do my very best, and then I will, get recognized and I'll get promoted, right? Don't rock the boat, and then that's kind of my upbringing too, I'm sure, and so sometimes I don't always speak the truth because I don't want to offend anybody. Okay, and I don't trust myself enough to say, oh, if I were to bring this to the table, people would listen to me. Trust yourself more, right? Do the right thing, tell the truth, right? And worry less about what other people think.
I think what I would tell my younger self, I wish I had had more confidence.
Right.
So whether you say I want to build my skills in presenting or being more strategic or writing a financial plan or whatever it is that you have to do that you think you can't do, just doing it and experiencing it builds your confidence. So I wish I had not wasted so much time not being confident.
That is really very good advice.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Gladys and Ashley, for joining the discussion today and sharing so much about how to navigate your career. Thank you. Appreciate it. It was fun.
Yeah, thank
We
you,
had a good
Lisa.
time.
It was really fun. It was great to spend time with you.
Thank you both. It was fun. I didn't expect to have so much fun, but it was fun.
Good.